What is going on, folks? We are back with an intro, maybe an outro, a new area, a need of a haircut, a different guitar. Change, basically, is the theme for what we'll dub Season 2, I guess, is a dubious start. It's actually just episode 35 of the You Know It, the Rick Chappell podcast. First things first, we got a glass of iced tea here because I don't have drinking water. That's right. In my little area of Canada here, it's lovely, but I have a boil water advisory for E. coli. So thanks a lot, everybody. That's going real well. But when life gives you lemons, make iced tea. Because I boil the water, and it's safe, but it kind of tastes like ass, you know. So, oh, there we go. We swore in the first 2 minutes. Sorry, YouTube. Anyways, we got a list of things to talk about because it has been at least a minute. Starting with this guitar, we may as well just fly right into it. I've sold some stuff. I've traded some stuff down. We've been making all kinds of changes. And I got this guitar. This is a Jackson Adrian Smith model. And I didn't buy it to play Iron Maiden, though Adrian Smith is the guitar player of Iron Maiden. I bought it to play Def Leppard and Scorpion songs, because that's been my new band. I joined that, and we've been doing a tribute to those things. I didn't join Def Leppard and the Scorpions. I joined a version of them. And, we played twice so far. Decent gigs. And, I wrote them down to talk about later, but I might as well do it now. The first one was what I got the guitar for. It was my backup for something with the whammy bar. And it was this past summer here out in the valley of BC in the interior. And it went pretty well. It was out in a dusty field playing on a stage that was very crooked. But you make do, and you rock and roll. And I had to learn, I think, 30 songs for that, because it was 2 nights. One night of one and one night of the other. What a time. But the more recent show we did, just last week, was at the Bell Center out in Surrey. And that was just 15 songs, or 20 or so. But both bands, we did it as a 2-in-1 package. And it went really well. It's definitely a cool way to do it. I've got some photos of the theater I'll throw up on the screen at some point. It was huge. We did not sell it out. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But still, we sold like 300-some tickets, and everybody there had a great time. So that's a victory, if you ask me. Back to the list of things, though. Sorry, I'm fighting off every kind of cold and known to man. Hopefully not E. coli. But back to the Jackson, I guess. This guitar has a great story with it in that for about a week and a half, maybe a month, I can't remember, it's a while ago. But I was briefly unable to walk into the store with this guitar. I was banned for, I think it was 3 weeks or so. Banned from the premises, and now all is good. But an ex-girlfriend of mine was working there, and I was shopping there like a regular human being, and then I bought this guitar, and she was unhappy that I brought my new girlfriend with me, I think. And then cried about it, and then eventually she stopped working there, aka, out of there. And then I'm allowed back, and all is rocking and rolling. The guitar's been good, though. I had to make a couple changes to it. At first, I thought they banned me just because I was coming back so much. Because I had a couple of electric issues, like, the switches and whatnot. But I did change out the bridge in it for an 84 spec Floyd. So it's the one I used to have on my old, that Charvel Model 6. There's podcasts on it and all kinds of videos, because I sold that guitar. So I made a goodbye video. But, when I got this guitar, I was shocked at just how heavy it was. Like, it's affordable as hell, which is awesome, but it's so heavy. Especially compared to, the old Frankenstrat that I had before this, too, which is my other, whammy bar guitar. I don't get it. But what else has been changed? It's got the lips on it. You'll see, my girlfriend stuck these big old lips on this guitar before I went away to the last gig there. And actually, at the last show at the Bell Center, I didn't bring this guitar because the output jack was having some issues that I've now solved, so... Cheap guitars have some cheap guitar problems, I guess, sometimes. But once you get the kinks worked out, man, rock and roll. It's actually pretty decent sounding clean, too. I was going to swap the pickups and do all that, but we'll get around to it maybe one day. What else is on the list here? Oh, yeah, we're in a new studio, if you can't tell. Everything has changed. That may not be my amplifier, but it's there for now. It's actually my buddy's. We'll talk about that later, like always. But yeah, I've moved, basically, and everything took forever to reset up. I did one of the Song in a Day live streams from this spot, and it didn't work. Like, it failed partway through because I didn't have as much plugged in as I thought I did, and chaos ensued, like can happen sometimes. But knock on wood, we're doing good now. And you'll see changes. You know, some guitars will probably get hung up in the background because I have no self-control and I do have a stud finder, so what can you do? But the new space is actually pretty great. It's I've been working in headphones a lot because I am in a condo still. That's just always going to be the case, I bet. But it sounds good. I've still got monitors when I want them. The sub kicks in when I need it. The desk is jam-packed with gear because it is a different desk even actually from the last episode of the podcast. So there you go. Everything changes. And now it's a dual rack desk, and I'll do a whole rundown on it. But I think, settled on how it all is now. Like, I've got all the ambient stuff on one side, the computer's on another, and everything's plugged in except for a couple things. You know, this is just, it's an ever-evolving thing. If you've ever worked in or built a studio, I'm sure you know. But the 500 series stuff is plugged in, and the amp is plugged in, and the big stuff is working, and we can do this, as you can tell. And to transition like a smooth mother here, one of the ways that I started testing it and making sure I could write some songs and this space was working for me was I've been traveling a lot up to the interior of BC to visit some friends who live out there, and playing with some bands with them too. And they tossed around the idea of starting like a live project, a bit of a trio with us. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. We should do some original songs even. And they're like, yeah, you should write some songs. So I did. And I wrote like 9 in a week, and 3 of them were in a day. And it's been a lot of material. They're far from done, you know, don't get me wrong. And the other guys still need to put all their touches on them, and the drummer will write the drums and the bass player will write the bass, but there's songs and there's skeletons that we can build on. So I'm looking forward to getting that live project going, because in the past few months I've been playing live again, and it's fun. Turns out that like people are cool when they like you. And most of the time, if I'm playing songs they know, they seem to kind of enjoy it, is what I can take away so far. So I do have another live avenue working out right now. I'm doing some coffee shops, just your basic singer-songwriter type of gigs, you know. But I tried to spin them and make it a little bit more than just a guy with a microphone and a guitar. So I've got some cover songs and some original songs, and I'll release a couple of them on YouTube here soon, just because it's a good demo too. But I've used my old drum machine and one synthesizer and a little bit of piano just to kind of give it some more, you know, to make a little backing track that I can still perform with just a guitar and a microphone, electric or acoustic. But at least there's a couple little hey-hos in the background for the backing vocals, or a tambourine shake, or just that little stuff that can really set it over the edge. And then I kind of instrumentally remade a couple songs in a cover way that are really dark and cool. And it went from a coffee shop vibe to like a neon smokers club, maybe, is what it looks like in my head now for one of the cover songs. But we'll piece it together. We'll release the songs, because I'm about to start releasing a ton more material. I know in the past few months there's been nothing on here, but that is not for lack of writing and lack of preparing. So the floodgates, hopefully, of all this content are about to start to take shape a little bit. And I did finally, you may notice, all 2 or 3 of you guys that have been waiting on bated breath for this podcast, that the video for London Fog finally came out yesterday too. So you've probably seen that before you've seen this by now. Maybe it came out 2 days ago. I don't know how the world of time zones works for you, or when I'll upload this. But yeah, I finished the video. I filmed it like a year ago in this room, empty. It was like a rented projector and rented lights and everything to make all the effects, and then I green screened on some stuff, and it was a time to make fog effects. And I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you it took me the whole year, but it took me a lot of time, and I would get so done with it while I was working on it. I would spend 3 hours, trying to make the fog angle look cool, and then just not want to look at it for at least a month, and that's just how it went. So it's out there. Check it out. Wade through that London fog, yada, yada, yada. The song was written 5 years ago, for God's sakes. I'm trying to speed up this process. That is the only video that I had planned and will probably do for Black Tie Affair, that album, because Outlier is so far down the pipeline that I gotta finish it up, and then there's the live trio and all this other stuff coming that, like, Black Tie Affair is done, basically, Not basically. It is. That was the chapter. It took way too long. But to be fair, I almost died in a car accident during it, so, like, sometimes life happens, you know what I mean? What else can we chat about here? I wrote down tons more stuff, and I jumped all around through the order. We talked about this Jackson and how I got banned for a month, because that's my favorite part of this guitar. I call this the weak women guitar. I talked about the new studio, because it's a great setup. Oh, the other thing is the new desk and the new setup is it's even new computers. I sold all my computers. I sold everything. But as you can tell, they're still computers. I went the Mac Mini route, and it's awesome. They are awesome. I've got an M1 and an M2, one for music and one for streaming and video. So if one crashes, one doesn't, and if I'm doing something on one and it freezes, I can literally it's the same keyboard and mouse, so you just switch to the other real quick, and oh God, I thought 2 displays was good, but 2 independent machines? So spoiled. So, I don't think I'm going back. I'd love a laptop. The portable life is always grand. But you can just take the Mac Mini and a screen if you want anyways. So, hey, portable life's never that far around the corner. And I don't go places with computers anyways. It's kind of the point usually when you go somewhere. But anyways, I talked about the Def Leppard shows, the Scorpion shows. The other shows, I can't reveal any dates just yet, but it's looking like next year, and it's looking like not in this province, so I'll say that much at least. There's opportunities to do another tribute gig with some of the crew to play, I can say the bands at least. It'll be a Journey, it'll be the front runner, and Foreigner as the undercard. So who doesn't love Foreigner and Journey? Like, I grew up loving Jukebox Hero. I do believe that was one of my favorite songs as a kid. That one guitar, you know it, you love it. I burned through a bunch of this list in less than 10 minutes because I haven't done a podcast in a hot minute. I've been expecting Kevin to come up at some point and kill some time, but she hasn't. I told about the London Fog story. We should talk about the streams, because I will be streaming again, and it will be more and in slightly different spots. So I'll do the Tuesday Song in a Day streams again. I'm going to bring those back, and it'll be the same, basically. That said, if you are on Twitch, I'll go back on Twitch in a more haphazard way, where I'll be just making stuff that's not always the full song in a day. Sometimes I'll be working on whatever it may be. But hopefully throughout the weekday, I'll be punching in on Twitch for a couple hours here and there. I'm not going to say every day, but a decent amount of time. So get your Twitching on, because we will step back into that corner. I have thought about doing the video game route on Twitch. My Xbox busted, so I'm not doing that. I can play old Grand Theft Auto, because we all love that. And I can also do some old PlayStation 2 games. I was thinking of doing the retro gaming thing, because I'm not a big gamer. Like, that's just not really me. But I'm decent at them sometimes. Like, racing games have taken me across the world one time. Like, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast, but in 2015, I want to say, or 14, whenever Forza Motorsport 6, I think it was, came out, or 5, I don't remember. Anyways, I won a contest up here to represent Team Canada at the launch event for the Forza. That was insane. They flew me down to Texas. They did a contest with all of us. I came 9th in the world. There are bits and pieces of it on YouTube. I can't grab that footage because that is all heavily owned by Microsoft. But to reveal things I shouldn't, I did have a great vacation. I went down there. I was 20. So in Canada, I had been drinking for a year and a half because I was 20. And in America, I was a minor, so I shouldn't have been. But the fake confidence you can extrude by being already of legal drinking age in your own mind means that, you kind of just get away with it. So I had a party of a time. And because it was just a video game racing cars, it's not really frowned upon to have a beer. You know what I mean? Like, there's no lives are in danger even though we're at a racetrack. It's all private. It was a great time. I was also one of the only guys that they had like full-on console setups for all of us with the steering wheel and the pedals, and the chair had our name on it, the whole 9 yards. But all the guys used the controller because I guess that's just how the best people do it. And I was like, dude, we're here for fun to play a video game. And I love the steering wheel thing. Like, that's how I play it. So I used that. And because of that, they made fun of me a little bit at dinner and whatnot. But those were some very kind people. My competitors from around the world there. There was Team Germany, Team UK, Canada, US. I think that was it. Maybe there was a European, like, mishmash. I can't remember. But they were all super great dudes, and we had a good time, hanging out at the hotels and whatnot. But we were there for like 3 days. It was awesome. We didn't all feel like we were cut from the same cloth. Let's just put it that way. They were better than me at that stuff, but I just didn't know how to chat with them and vibe really all that much. I'm much better when there's instruments involved than when there's controllers. But sometimes the two are very similar, so there definitely is a common ground. But beyond that, I mean, like, I play Minecraft occasionally, I guess. Like, I barely play video games, man. Even back then, I didn't play that much. I did a little bit of, like, real car racing, sort of. Like, not really, just drifting, and not competitively. So there you go. And some drag racing that was just really for fun when I was in school. But the real drifting was a trip because I had an RX-7 that was all nutty, and there are videos of that on my YouTube for sure, of my helmet camera somewhere. But it was swapped with a Toyota Supra engine that made it awesome and just a monster. So driving it was great on the track, and that was kind of the only place that thing was made for. The day I bought it, I drove it home, and it was the first time I'd ever driven a right-hand drive manual. So I had sat on the wrong side of the vehicle, and I'd gotten kind of used to that. But shifting with your other hand, whether you're in North America and you're used to one hand, or you're overseas and you're used to the other, it just messes with your brain. So I was driving this like death trap of a race car on the highway home with the wrong hand shifting. And also the motor swap and everything was done. It barely fit. So the shifter was like way in the wrong spot. And then there was a big hole that you could just see the ground, coming through because there was no carpet in the thing. It was a whole race car. It was not legal in any sense of the term. But I never got pulled over, and I only drove it to and from the track once or twice. So we were safe. What a car, though. The reason I bring it up when talking about Forza and racing games was when I was doing the track stuff and trying to learn what I was doing and get comfortable. The best advice I could give to myself or anybody was if I just kind of turned off the part of the brain that said survive and treated it like it was a video game. The game was pretty close to what I was doing. Like, I just pretended I was doing the thing, and then the car kind of did what the car in the game did, and if I didn't fall out of my seat, it kind of worked. I'm far, far, far from a professional with that, but I did pretty good that day, and I had a ton of fun. So everybody should do something like that when it comes to driving a car and getting out of control and sliding sideways. to learn how to control it. If you do slide out in the rain or the snow up here, whatever can happen, right? It's life. It's experience. This is the guy who can't swim and refuses to. What else is on the list here, though? We've fired through so much. The computers have been great, though. The Mac Minis. Like, I can't preach that enough. Even though I'm on the M1 and the M2, and now they're onto the 4s, they're killer. I think the podcast will be just a half-hour mark for the foreseeable future. I'm going to try to do a quality over quantity type of vibe. But let's talk about the guitar just a little bit more, because this is like an Indonesian super affordable guitar compared to some of the other stuff that I've featured on here. I mean, it's no Murphy Lab Les Paul, but it's great. I mean, there's an even cheaper guitar I got recently that I can show maybe in the coming weeks here, but it's at the girlfriend's house. That's why I grabbed it. It was to have one to leave, you know. But yeah, I've been on the affordable kick because they're great. Aside from the weight of this guitar, that's the only thing I can say is it's heavy, you know, but each piece of wood's a little different. The factory bridge was good, but I had this 84 spec Floyd with the big brass block and the brass fine tuners, and I thought it looked cool, and it does. And whether or not you get sustain out of the brass block or tone, I don't really care. It sounded good before, and it sounds good now. That said, I complain about the weight, and I hucked a big piece of metal in it, so it's kind of my fault there too. And yeah, the other little gripes I've had, I mean, I really messed with the setup when I did the bridge swap just to make sure that like things were radius right. It's the first time I ever put shims in the bridge too, to try to really correct those issues, because the bridge was more of a radius than the guitar, so my strings were high in the middle, and it was just weird. So I figured out how to solve that with some very thin pieces of metal. First time I've ever had to do that. I did this guitar myself, you know, when it comes to these. Overall, I wouldn't say modifications. It's kind of just a glorified setup, you know, when it comes to shimming the neck and shimming the bridge. And basically, the guitar's got so much shims in it, may as well just call it Pat. But it's good now. And it took effort. And sometimes the good things do, you know. And I got to bring it back into the store again to take a look at the output jack. Or I might grab one of these fancy ones I've seen online. But they fancy ones cost they money, you know. That's what they do. Should I do some comments? Probably not. I've gotten away from doing the comments right here on the podcast. But I do have the email set up. So I should have mentioned that at the beginning. But hey, we're learning as we go. The email is me@rickchappell.com. I can't make it easier. I mean, it's me. It's how you want to get to me. You email me at rickchappell.com. RickChappell. I don't have to tell you. Come on. And you'll get right to me. So I've had a couple things sent in so far, but I'm waiting to have a little bit more of a bank to really get going here. I accept anything, but mostly videos of your cats. That's dope. Or people getting hurt. I'm also welcome to that. I'm not trying to steal YMH's thing, but I do enjoy me some Twitter chaos. So I might save a little bit of Twitter chaos here and show it. But even though I don't have any monetization on my way, let's not get flagged, you know? Cats are much safer. And who doesn't love some kitty cats? Kevin, apparently, is not joining us. Everything has changed, except for that fact. But, yeah, I do want to hear from you guys, though. We built up a very small audience so far in the past 35 episodes, but there are some people from Mexico and Japan and the United States, and, hey, that's a start, guys. I kind of have to make the things in order for you to watch the things. I recognize the transaction starts and ends with me there. So, we'll get right back on it. We got that dope intro. That took some time. Not 6 months. What else have I done in the past 6 months? I moved everything. Unfortunately, I should mention it. One of my cats did pass away. Kevin is still with us, thankfully, but I had an old kitty cat named Nookie who was around at the time of the last taping. I'm sure she was in the background of an episode or two, and I did put her in the intro because, hey, love that kitty cat. And, yeah, she just got insanely old. She was paralyzed, so the fact that she lived as long as she did was insane. I think she made it to like 15 or so, maybe 17, which is as long as a cat can make it. Usually that's a pretty healthy house cat. My previous one had made it to 21, which is insane. But for a special needs cat, hey, that's a victory all those years I got with her. And the amount of times I talked my mom out of putting her down, or like just dumb shit like that. She did great right up until, I remember the last month of her, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna have to put her down soon. Like, I got sad. I was like, oh, she's getting there. But then nature did its thing, and yeah, I miss Nookie, but maybe we'll get another kitty cat here in another months at some point, or year, who knows. I've got some more changes I gotta make here before we do anything drastic like that. I've thought about getting a dog. Every time I visit my friends up in the interior there, I see their dog, and every time I leave, I want to just shove him in my car. But I don't, because it's so irresponsible. But, Bernese Mountain Dogs. They're so cute. They look like cartoon dogs. Like, if you asked a good artist to draw a dog, I feel like they draw a Bernese Mountain Dog. They look like a firefighter dog. They look like a rescue dog. I don't know. When you picture dog to me, that's a dog. I didn't have them growing up or anything like that. We had, what kind of animals have I had? I had a boxer. I had, there was a Rottweiler for a little while there. Tiny little thing that my mom had. I don't know what he was. I named him Alexi Leho, though, after Alexi Leho. Rock and roll. Then we had a dog that had no teeth. So there's always been weird animals in the house, whether that be the paternal figure, the pets, or myself. No one's firing on all cylinders, it seems to be. But we make do. What else has been going on? We did have a crazy rainstorm here, but I live in a rainforest, so even my neighbors sent like an SOS message about like, expecting heavy rain, and my phone keeps being like, expecting heavy rain, and I just keep wearing coats. Like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing. I could put out a bucket if they're wanting me to, like, if there's some dry coming after, but that's not what they're saying. Like, I don't know. I remember the days when it would just rain and people would steal people, but I guess now we all have to text each other. But my neighbors are also like, I don't think any of them see this. They're idiots, some of them. Some of them are lovely people, and I hope if they do see this, they know which ones they are. But one of them drove over my car the other day. Like, just ran over it. And I was like, you hit my car. And they were like, I'm really sorry. I thought it was somebody else. I'm like, I don't know how that makes it okay, but okay. And then I was like, okay, I need your information. And they're like, okay. And then I called ICBC, which is our insurance people. And I was like, hey, this happened. And they're like, that's awful. Okay, thank you. And then they called me a couple weeks later, and they're like, yeah, so they didn't do it. And I was like, what? How did I get their phone number? How do I know who they are? You're telling me I got into a hit and run with a person who didn't run? I don't understand what happened. So, some of my neighbors are lying buffoons. Some of them don't know how to roof. There was an incident. Oh my God, I didn't even talk about that because I haven't done a podcast. But we had a leak in the parking structure roof. So I was like, oh, that roof's leaking. That sucks. That's the extent of my complaint. It was leaking on my spot only. And I was like, well, water is water, but we should fix that. And then a guy climbed up on there, like a 70-year-old man, and just poured tar in the hole and then covered my car with tar because that's not how you fill a hole. So that was a whole thing. And then he came knocking on my door and he was like, it's okay though, I fixed it. I used paint thinner. And then I walked up to a car that was just bronze in paint thinner and roofing tar. And I was at it with a bucket of soap and water for a while, and he was shocked that I had that idea. I don't know who ever would think to use soap and water to clean a fucking vehicle. But anyways, after him trying to make excuses for a while, he left me to my own devices to clean up his mess. And then I called and got it actually cleaned up because it was 1,000,000 degrees outside and it was so much work and didn't even have a hose. Like it needed professional help, literally. So the Strata agreed to pay for the damage that this man had done, and it was a whole ordeal though. And then the roof still leaks, but he keeps just patching it with stuff. Like there was like paper for a while, not paper, just as stupid. There was a bag and plywood for a little while, and then there was spray foam, and it's all over the ground. Everything that goes up comes down eventually, so I don't park there anymore because I don't have insurance because it's just a liability at this point because there's an old man roofing. So shout out to friendly neighbors, but like once you're senile, you gotta know to stay off the ladders. Like if we were having electrical issues or plumbing issues, someone would be dead by now. And I don't say that threateningly. I say that out of just like what would go wrong if it was even more important than the safety of a roof. Because he's also added braces to the roof because he's like, this thing's really unstable. And I was like, well, get off of it. Don't add wood. Just call it a day, buddy. How about we involve the professionals? But alas, we've hit the half-hour mark, and I've complained a great deal about old people who can't drive, who can't roof, who shouldn't be doing most of the things they were doing. And this has been episode 35 of the Rick Chappell Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning through. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back. Doing whatever you did. Props, man. Remember, when life shits in your water, which is what happened to me, put something that makes your water taste better. And then you'll be fine. And that's the end of the show. See you guys next week.